Okay. So, hey guys, welcome everyone to the third session of UiPath app. So, considering now that everyone who attended the two sessions, everyone has very clear idea of app features, app integrations, and multiple things. But today, again, we are going to deep dive a little more into one of the integrations, which is UiPath apps and data service. Now, we have also seen what is data service, understood few things about it, but today we have Akshat and Amit from UiPath itself, and they are going to show us a use case built in UiPath apps where they will go through how to integrate data service, what are the use cases behind it. Also, we are going to talk about some of the enterprise use cases as well. So that is going to be all about that. Now, without wasting more time, I hand over it to Amit and Akshat, and let's go ahead.
Okay, great. Thanks, Parth. So I will just give a quick introduction, like myself and then Akshat, and then we can get started. So hi everyone, good evening, and thanks for joining. So this is Amit Kulkarni. I'm a part of UiPath team, part of UiPath sales engineering team, and I've been with UiPath for last 4 years. And I'm based in Mumbai. So any sessions we have in Mumbai in person, would definitely like to meet whoever is in Mumbai at that time. And I work specifically across the platform, like all the different products of UiPath platform. Today, we are specifically going to focus on the UiPath app plus data service, like how integration happens. And then specifically, there was asked about the different enterprise use cases, where exactly apps has been used at which customer case studies, or what are the possible use cases across the industries. So we are going to talk about that also, and that's how our flow will be. So I will hand it over to Akshat. He will introduce, and then first part he's going to show everything, and then I will talk on the enterprise use cases. Okay, so over to you, Akshat.
Yeah, thanks, Amit. So good evening, everyone. So as Amit already mentioned that we'll be covering more of the enterprise use cases as well as the data service integration with the UiPath apps. So what I'll do is obviously it's the third session, so I'll give a very quick recap of what exactly UiPath apps are and what kind of what kind of things we can build around it, and then overview of the data service and how to integrate the data service with your UiPath apps. So why there is a need for the data service, what business problem it solves, or what enterprise problem it solves, what how it is helpful for the developers. So everything will be covered, and then post that there is a small demo which will be showing you that how to add the data in the data service using UiPath apps, and then we will move on to uh, the enterprise use cases or the case studies which we have deployed or which the customers has deployed using the apps. So I'll share my screen, okay, and we'll start. So let me know once my screen is visible. Uh,
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, it's visible.
yep. So this is our agenda. Basically, as I mentioned, I'll give you a very quick recap, and then we'll discuss, or talk about data service, and then enterprise use cases and case studies, and then we can have the Q&A session afterwards as well as in between. If you have some question, you can always put in on the chat, and then we can start. Uh, so yeah. So basically, when I talk about UiPath apps, so basically what UiPath apps are and what exactly they are solving. So basically, they are very low cost and low complexity applications which uses drag and drop features for the app development. So you don't have to write tons of codes. You can use it for any of the enterprise grade solution. It provides a very low code and easy deployment opportunities, as well as the integration services to connect data with apps from multiple interfaces. So now you can connect your data through your RPA. You have multiple applications within your system, right, within your process or the operations. So you get the data, input the data from various applications. So this is basically a single place solution where you can get all the data extracted and then you can use it for further processing. the connection with the data sources. So you can connect with the application sitting on the cloud or on your premise using the APIs or the integration services which we have, and also you can connect with the legacy systems like any mainframe application or anything where you don't have any API or database access. Right, so it's a one-click deployment. We can go live as soon as it's developed, so there's no need to wait or anything. You can build the app as per your choice. You can customize for a specific need, or for example, which particular application you want to interact with, or which particular system, for example, SAP or Salesforce or anything you want to interact to. And it's actually capable of building everything. So as I said, we cover enterprise grade applications. So right from a finance function till the IT function, or an individual who is sitting on the in the customer contact center. So it covers each and every application. So now basically how on an enterprise level the automation or the UiPath apps are deployed. So right. So you can see on the screen on the left hand side there is an end user. So as I said that across the business units, across the functions, be it a sales and service, accounting and HR, contact center, help desk, IT, or anything, any individual, any employee can use this particular application and use it in their day-to-day activity, right? And it can be accessed on any of the device. It can be phones or tablets, PC or Macs, on a VDI screen, on a browser or SaaS applications, right? And the applications which we are talking about can go from any like from the lead management till the agent console. Create forms, you can create forms, you can to create an application to approve your purchase orders, uploading the images, uploading the documents. So now for example I would say that okay, there is an agent sitting in the customer service desk and he gets a call from one of the customer regarding his bank account details, right? So when you have the app interface in front of you, it will tell you before that okay, this person is calling, and once the call is taken, the an unattended bot will be triggered, which will give all the information to the customer care agent on its console, so he doesn't have to toggle between multiple screens, be it the authentication data, or you have the customer data details like the billing history, product and services which he or she is having in the bank, or the activity history, what activities the customer has done in the previous past, as well as the transaction history. So you don't have to toggle between multiple screen. Once you verify the customer, once you authenticate using the customer data, which will be fetched by the unattended robot, you can always run the attended robot, and it will fetch all the information for you, and it will showcase you in front of you in a console or a dashboard, so you don't have to go to multiple applications and waste your time. So that's how the business or the use of the applications we can on the enterprise scale. It basically provides a single entry point for multiple systems, right? As I said, you don't have to toggle between multiple screens. So how it happens is like you have the unattended bot and the attended robots, right? You can run it using unattended bots or the attended robots. So once the unattended bots, it will run through a trigger, whether it's a call or an email or an SMS or anything which you give as a trigger. So it will run through. It will have the integration services like the API or the user interface, and then you can get the data from the ERP or CRM system and business systems or the mainframe or the legacy systems. So and also from the internal data sources. So you can use these. So we have like out of the box solution or the pre-built APIs for majority of the systems and also you can build your own integrations uh, to get the data from any of these systems, right? So this is all about the apps. So now everyone has a fair bit of idea on the apps that okay, this is what we can do using the apps, or these are the kind of use cases or the areas where we can use the apps for. Now it's about like how what kind of data we can use in the apps. How I have multiple applications in place, and there is loads and loads of data, right? So how I can use that particular data in my apps, we'll look on in the subsequent slides, which basically talks about the data service, right? So what challenges today the organizations as well as the developers or the individuals business users face? So one is basically there's a use of external data like external application. As I mentioned, there are multiple external applications which a person interacts with on a day-to-day basis, right, to do perform any task. So it's really pain for the person to go to each and every application, get that data, store that data, what to do with that data, right? So sometimes the application, so you need a data from one application and you have to input it in another application. So you have to maintain that repository somewhere in your Excel or in your Notepad or somewhere, and from there you put those data in those applications and works, right. So this is one of the challenges. Again, second challenges is like data security in your automations, right? You access lots of multiple applications and there is a issue in the data security. uh, then increasing data proliferation, like you have multiple data sources with end user trying to access it from multiple machines, right? So you have tons of data which is lying there and you are trying to access that using your machines, right? uh, then there's a sharing of data with the right user. There are multiple people who are using the data, and then there is a need to share the data, right? So these are the challenges the organizations face today, and for them, like the data services can be used across, as I said, like the business or the organizations or the COEs and the people, right? So how business will benefit out of it? So just for example, take an example of any enterprise which work across all industries, right? So which has uh, data and they use it for the data modeling purpose or the insight purpose, right? They have loads and tons of data. So for them, they can use the data services. The organizations which is actually trying to eliminate data silos, control data, and access to data using the UiPath products. So these are the organizations which can use the data services. Uh, any business which does not want to um, which does not have any need of any data store, so they can use data service of the UiPath. And then the COEs, for example, as you know, that COEs are basically the center which actually manage all the automation across organization, right? So the COEs which plans to provide data access to various RPA users, maybe the developers or the business users, so they can use the data services. Now the people like RPA developers, those who play with the data, they which create the models, who create a data store, and they need data across different automation, as well as the business users, basically you who use these data for the transactional activity. So so these are basically, for them there's a need for data services, and that's what why we are using this particular data services, like uh, to access and manage data from multiple systems, as it has been mentioned earlier, reduce your efforts so you don't have to waste your efforts in getting data from multiple applications and ecosystem, right? You have the data schemas ready, you want to create those models, store business data in the apps with simple drag and drop. So for them, so that's why the data services are required. Also, it has benefits like which includes improvement in the employee experience, operational resiliency, as well as the risk uh, mitigation. So once you have all the systems in place, right, you have the drag and drop facility, you have a area, we have a service which we have created where the data is stored. So obviously, uh, the employee experience for the developer also will increase, right? So there's a no code, there's a drag and drop controls to model the data. You don't have to perform complex tasks. There's a simplicity. You avoid the tedious ways of accessing data from multiple systems, and then there's a reusability and easy sharing. So you can reuse that particular data which is stored in your data service for any of the application or for any of the process. And obviously there's an easy sharing within the automation users once you have the data stored in your data service. Then you have the operation resiliency and the risk mitigation, where you uh, have the security, scalability, and the efficiency, right? So for the security, I would talk about like you avoid data proliferation and get data into a centralized repository. So obviously there is a more, it's a more secure, provides more security. And then there is a scalability where you can scale the data, you can add the data at any point in time. You don't need to create a different set of service, or and then there is an improvement in efficiency, which basically helps you to perform your task faster and deploy those automations faster. Right. So that's how the what we are providing. What is UiPath uh, data service? Just a moment. Yeah. So what we are offering is like simple data modeling, scalable data store, uh, first class entity objects. You can create those entity in your in the in your data service, and then you can use your in your studio or anywhere. You have the integration with the within the UI path like studio apps, AI fabric, and other products as well. So you have a studio, you are using, you are creating any automation or a workflow, and then there is a entity which you have created using your data service. You can use it there. You can use it for the external integration, right? And then you have the uh, data modeling and security and governance, which I have talked about. Is like you can auto scale and dedicated instances which are there. So now, yeah. So now I'll talk about the data types and security one. So basically, what data service is basically just like a small database which you are creating within your UiPath system, and so it has the multiple data type you can create. It supports to suit your business needs. For example, the data type can be text, number, a yes or no, variable choice, or a boolean. Date, time, relationship. So relationship basically act as a primary key, what exactly the relationship is with particular different data source or a different table, a choice set, and the file. And then you can easily uh, choose or control, I would say, uh, the access for the at the entity level. Entity level is basically the whole table or a row level or a field level. So you can choose those controls. You can have that data more secure within your systems. So these are the access control which is provided, as well as these are the data types which is provided in the data services. So this is how it works, right? So you have the this is basically a I would say a very basic structure of how the UiPath data, so the data services work, right? So it has the, you can have, so web application provides the user experience for the data service. So you'll have a web application which is providing you the UI, and then there is a REST API endpoints, which is consumed by the web application studio and robot for all the operations, right? You have the browser, you have the UiPath studio and the UiPath robots, from where you can actually access the data services. And then there is a metadata store where you store the information about entities, fields, users, and permissions for each tenant. And then there's a data store which actually store the data for each entity, right? So you will have the data store which has all the data storage, and then there is a runtime and storage maintenance service which basically is responsible for access and operations to modify these entities and records. So this I'll showcase again in when I'll show you the demo, that okay, how you can create an entity using data service, uh, and how you can integrate that with your studio as well as the apps. So this basically go for the, so till now, any questions anyone have before I go for the demo?
No question.
Okay, so I'll just open the demo, and then then you can showcase.
So while Akshat is opening his demo, just from a hosting perspective, right? As a part of 22.10, so we have both the apps and data service. You can the cloud version was already there. Like you can have the UiPath apps in the cloud as well as data service in the cloud. At the same time, with the 22.10, now we you can have both on premise also. So any questions with reference to the security aspect of it in terms of where my data is going to reside, whether it's going to be cloud or whether it's going to be on premise, all of that can be taken care of, because now you would have both the UiPath apps as well as data service. You can have it on premise as well. So the hosting part has been taken care of specifically from a security perspective. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and also you can use these means this data service for any of your enterprise solutions as well. For example, like you want to capture data about employee needs, right? Any specific data within your organization. So instead of using a database on a file share or a cloud storage, you can store them in the UiPath data service, right? So anything, any kind of data or a monthly financial reporting or the I would say the review of customers before inputting them in your CRM, right? So you have multiple data from the um, customers, right? So it has like you are doing a 360-degree review or something for the customers, and then you're putting them in your CRM. So it has multiple of variables, right? It can
So,
do
Akshat, we are not
anything.
able to see your screen. You're sharing.
No, I'm not sharing. I'm just telling you. Just before the demo, I was just explaining majorly the use of data service, how you can use. So now, is it visible now? My screen is visible.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah, good.
Okay. So this is basically the UiPath cloud.uipath.com. You opened, and on the left hand side you will have the options of the apps, as well as when you click on more, you will have the data services enabled for you. Right. So first prerequisite is to get the data service enabled, and this is where you have the data service. When you click on data service, this is how it will look like. So you won't have any entity at this point in time because you have to create them. So once you open the data service, like go and click on data service, right? So it will have the entities listed over here. So right. So once you click on the create new entity, so you can put any name here and click on save. So it will create an entity for you, and you can go inside. So it will have multiple fields, right? So these are the five fields which is auto generated by the system, right? So the ID, update time, updated by, created by, and create time, it is auto generated by the system. So any new field or any column you want to enter, create, you have to click on create new field and enter any name. For example, name. I give you a name, and you can select the type here, like number, text, or yes or no, boolean, date, time, relationship, autocorrect, choice set. If I put as, and you can select whether it is required field or not required field, and you can click on save. Once you click on save, this will be updated here. And then once you have this particular here fields here, and you click on the data, so it will have it. It is like there is no data in this particular data service at this point in time, right? You can click on this, you can add the data. For example, I'm writing my name here, and you click on save. So you have inserted the data inside, and when you go out, you can see that, okay, when you click on the entities, it showcases that, okay, in the demo data, there is a number of, so there's one record and there are 6 fields. So five are auto generated, and one is basically which I created, and the data is here. So I'm going to showcase is like how you can actually update data here using your UiPath apps, right? So there is a means there is an so using UiPath apps, you can have enterprise grade application, or you can create simple forms which actually integrate or talk with this particular data service and update the data in this particular table. You don't have to manually do it. So for that, uh, I'll go to my UiPath applications. And so once if I for example, if I want to create a new application, so you click on build a new app, you give it a name as, and you click on create. It will give you multiple options. So either you can go for a blank page where you can create your customized app, else it gives you an option like a dashboard or a form A, form B, form C, list and details. So you have multiple templates over here. So if you want to create a specific dashboard, you can click on the dashboard, and then you can use that particular dashboard and connect to your processes to and also you can use those forms A, B, C, right? Else if you want to create application from the scratch, you can always select this particular blank page and then move ahead, right? So if I go and select, it will open a page wherein you have like multiple controls and multiple pages where we can actually connect this to the app. For example, entity, right? Entity is basically what we are creating in the data service, right? And any of the process or anything, you can always come on to this. Now I'm gonna showcase you the application which I have created, which will insert the value in the. This basically is just a voter app which I have created, wherein I have given a text field wherein I'll enter the individual's name and I'll select with a switch whether the person is a voter or not. So once I'll click on submit, it will update the data in the data service which I have created in the UiPath. So what it will do is it has like multiple features and functions. So for example, now what it will do is once I click on this particular button, so here in the studio, it will run the process within the studio. It will trigger the process which I have created in the studio, which connects with the entity and update those, which connects with the data service and update the data in the entity. So for example, I'll give a name, any name, for example, Sagar, and I click on voter as yes and click on submit. Just a moment. Yeah. So it is creating a new voter, which the spinner which I have given here. And now I can always go back and check here in my voter data, what kind of data do I have? So I've already had few data earlier. Now I have created this particular user named Sagar and I've mentioned the voter as yes. So it is already updated in my data service. You don't have to go directly and enter any of the values within in the data services, right? So this basically is a small or any other name I want to uh, put in, and it will give you the any other option. It will enter the data. It will update the data in that data service. So right, so what happens is now when I enter this particular name over here and click on and select this particular switch button and click on submit, there is a process in my studio which actually runs. So now what happens when you create any new process in this studio, you have multiple entities created. Once you create the entity in the data services, you click on the manage entities here. And once you click on the manage entities, it will ask you to select which entity you want to use. If you want to use any specific entity or you have created a new entity, it will be available here. And then you can use that particular entity for your workflow or anything, right? Your any other process or anything you want to create. And once you have the entity uh, selected for this particular process, you can always go on the activities and search for the entity, and you have multiple options or the actions available for you. You can create any entity, you create multiple entity records, you can delete any entity, you can query, you can update. So all these options are available uh, within the UiPath Studio, and 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 you can always check, and you can always give the reference in the process, in the workflow, and in the studio, and you can create a small workflow which I have created for the to create the entity record in the uh, UiPath data service. And once it is done, you save it and publish it in your orchestrator, and then you can easily go to your UiPath apps, and then you can get your orchestrator here by selecting that particular process, or you can have or any other individual who has created a process in his or her system. You can always take that particular package, and then you can install that package within in your upload that package in your UiPath orchestrator, and then you can use directly in your UiPath apps. So that's what we are doing. So that's what we have done. So once we click on this particular button, it 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 calls the process which I created in the UiPath Studio, which connects with the entity which I have created in the data service, and then the data is updated. So that updated data also can be used for any of the process as the input, right? So it's not that only that particular data we have created. So that particular data I can use here in the add control and click on the entity, and I can use that particular data here in my particular app as an input. So it's not that only I am doing the update in the data service. Whatever the data in the data service is there, I can use that in my application as well. So this basically is a small form. So you can build more complex apps, which Amit will be taking in a while. He'll go through few of the case studies or the enterprise level applications which we have created, right? So it's a very basic form, and also I showed you the templates which are already pre-built in the UiPath apps, where you can use those dashboard or any of the complex forms, and then you create those app connect with your data service, and then you can uh, play along, or you can deploy those in your enterprise organizations, and then you can work on that. So that was uh, the small demo or the application which we have created. Uh, Now, the last thing I want to cover is basically what are the key differentiators which we have right now. Is the automation at scale, end-to-end platform for automation, as well as the rapid time to value. So basically, what we say is like using the UiPath data service. It's basically highly scalable data source. You can aggregate data from multiple legacy systems into a single store. You can provide customers employ more contextualized and customized automation experience, right? And then we provide the end-to-end platform for the automation. You have this integration with UiPath suite of studio apps, AI fabric, and easy data consumption. So you can use the data services across uh, any of the platform or any of the product which we have. It's a centralized business data within the UiPath platform. So you have a data which is at the center, and you can use it for any purpose, any purpose. And then you have the rapid time to value, where we say that it's very low complex, and it's like very rapid deployment, where you can easily drag and drop data modeling experience. You can share the data easily, you can scale it easily, uh, and then it reduces the time and effort to access and use the data within the automation project. So obviously it gives you can be like very fast in deploying these solutions within your organizations, and then you can realize those automation values or the enterprise uh, usage value at a very rapid pace. So you don't have to wait uh, for long to deploy these applications. It is even deployable, as well as you don't have to wait for long to create those applications, because you can even create the models with a simple drag and drop, and then you can deploy. So that's it from my side. I'm happy to take any questions. Otherwise, I'll pass on to Amit now. So Amit will take on the customer stories as well as the use cases.
Akshat, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like you showed some predefined templates. Is it possible, like in future, we have the scope that we can create our own templates or maybe our own controls? Like one I preferably currently want is something kind of a scroller for the title. If I want to display some kind of label, I want to highlight it or scroll it so it looks like attractive to the user, or their focus, it gives a focus to the user. So is that possible in future? Like right now, I don't know maybe if it's there or what.
Yeah. So right now it is not there. The right now the templates which Akshat showed, like those are the ones which are available. But the plan, in couple of months, would be to have a capability to upload your template. Like say you create your template, customize it, and put it in a marketplace or somewhere, and you can actually build your own template there that can be reused across multiple applications. So that is in the roadmap, and sometime in 2023 that should be available.
And any insights on what developers might be able to use to create those templates? Like for UiPath activities, we have VB.NET or C# language, which one can learn and develop their own components.
Mhm.
So is there any language or something that developers can start focusing on? So in 2023, when that opportunity comes, we are ready to create our own templates or our own controls for the app.
Right. So, see, that part is still under discussion because, see, if you look at the way apps are created, right, it's a low code platform. So, typically, like what there is no underlying code, which the underline is like a proprietary, C# code, which is there as a part of the platform. Now, these are like web applications, and in the web applications, you can drag and drop, and you are kind of, using those HTML controls there that way, like in terms of alignment and positioning and, putting all of it together. So the idea would be like going forward, it would be something around JavaScript only that way. But I'm not 100% sure, right? It's still under discussion, the architectural considerations. But just at a very high level, as I understand, it's going to be something around the JavaScript part of it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, great. So I will just quickly show, some of the different applications that we have built using apps, and then for next 10 minutes or so, and then, we can take for any additional questions. Okay. So everyone can see my screen.
Yes, yes, we can.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So now, as Akshat explained, right, like why we are using apps and, why we are using data service, right? So specifically apps is our front end, data service is our back end. And now what are the use cases? Like when you go to your customers, right? When you talk with your existing partners, like where exactly apps can be leveraged. So one of the common use cases is currently your data is not stored anywhere, right? Like there is no persistent data right now. Everything is like in memory, and that is one of the use cases wherein I can actually build my app and use the data service specifically for any application. Second interesting use case, and this second use case is across any industry, right? So you have like whether it's a customer service or whether it's an insurance or a banking, right? You have a customer service operator, and there are multiple applications which they are working on, and you want a way to have a consolidated dashboard, right? So that's where like app could be useful. So you could have, like, let's say in your HR onboarding, you have Workday, you have SAP, you have Excel, you have email. Now the data is flowing from one application to another application, but then if I want like a one consolidated view of where exactly what is the candidate status, like which information is completed, which is pending in HR, which is pending in Workday, all of it, the apps can provide you like a front-end interface, and I will show you how the example looks like, right? So ability to have multiple systems and a way to have that information. Now this could be like not only just web applications, right? Some of the insurance customers that we work with, they have their data in the mainframe, and I need to pull in some information from mainframe, or there are some specific .NET or Java or any desktop based applications. I need the information from those applications. So ability to have like a single dashboard which shows me information from my web application, my HR application, my mainframe application, my maybe some data is coming through API, some application like a desktop application. So that is like another interesting use case where a app can be deployed. The third interesting use case is for long running processes, right? So you might be aware of document understanding and action center, wherein like you have a dashboard where you can like any long running process, like it based on the state, it needs to be approved by multiple people, there need to be comment provided, it needs to be rejected. So for any long running process which has like multiple kind of stakeholders, and you want a way for them to interact with that particular process, that's where like you could quickly build an app which can have the a quick communication happening there, right? So these are some of the examples which we have seen for the apps. Now let me just go one by one in terms of like what all applications you can develop, these are like across various domains, right? So specifically like this example which I have, like on the left hand side, you have the these different onboarding application: Workday, Atlassian, Payroll, Outlook, all of it. And then all the data is flowing individually in each of these applications. But then as a recruiter or as a talent acquisition person, I don't have a single consolidated view for my application, right? So that's where like I have this particular mobile part here. Like I have this application which can be which has a good interface in terms of like what pre-boarding tasks are, what is completed, what is remaining, and accordingly the status can be leveraged further. And the apps that we are building, I mean, those are kind of HTML5 compliant. So you can run them on your laptop, you can run them on your desktop, you can run them on a mobile application also. So it's not a mobile app, but it's like you can have a typical browser-based interface on a mobile, a typical rendering of a HTML5 application. So that way, this is one of the good examples in terms of HR space where we have seen the apps being leveraged. And this is how it will look like, right? So this is my first screen, right? So on my first screen, like I have I have the standard logging page in terms of the different activities, and then I have the if I click on my task, then it will tell me that okay, this task is in this particular a word in email, or this task is in Workday and it is completed, or it's like 0%, right? So all the information which I have, which I need to get from multiple applications, I can create a consolidated interface for that, and I can show it here in my application. And as you can see, like this has been built in apps, and there is some kind of a background that has been given here. So those kind of activities can be done here, right? So that is one thing. Then second is on the similar lines, one of the customers like they have used UiPath apps to better their customer service. So data which comes from customer service, data which comes from field technicians, data which comes from the other groups, right? You want to have a consolidated interface for that, and that's where like the UiPath apps have been used here. There is a complete document on this that can be shared in terms of what was the app, and what was the use case, what was the business problem here. But this is again like a consolidated interface that we have seen. Apart from that, like let me just also show you some of the samples that we have built, right? So we had a hackathon like a couple of months back, and in that like we built a particular application like the one which was in terms of the so we had like a data which was coming from test cases, right? So that's another thing, right? So the app in our case, we are having all the data in our test manager, and we wanted like a consolidated interface, right? So which are my test cases, what is my test set, what is my test case in that test set, what is the project ID. So we use this different created entities for test cases, test sets, my logs, reporting, all of it. And then for that, our front end was this particular app. So if I just open my app here, so specifically in I can just and this was something we did it for our hackathon. So we did literally in like 2 days time frame. So if I click here, right, so typically like you can see we just created like a dashboard for getting all the test execution status. So what were the requirements from Jira, number of test sets, total executions for test case. So this information is coming from our test manager using a Swagger API, right? So using API we are getting all these different data. These are the tables which we have created, which all the information in terms of for this project. This is my test execution name, number of past test cases, number of failed test cases, and then we have created a graph also. So this graph is available here, which we have built in app. It's an Excel based graph. So suppose if you want to build some graph, you build an Excel based graph, and then have that Excel graph available here in the UiPath apps. Now, the question could come that, okay, can I use my JS graphs which are available? Right now, that support is not there. But as I mentioned earlier, like we will have support for any JS-based kind of controls soon, sometime in 2023. So that is this is like a graph representation of this particular use case. So I can actually like click on any of these test cases here, and then what will happen is that it will actually give me more additional details, right? So you can see here the UI is not that great, right? Like I mean, we have just it was a hackathon, and we had like limited 2-day time. So whatever we could do in terms of getting the data, integrating the data, putting it together, we leverage that. But definitely you have a lot of scope in terms of customizing the data, customizing the list as per your requirement. And then we also had like some of the requirement, like you can actually drop a file here. Some customers want like all the logs in Azure bucket, right? So I can actually like upload a file and it will go to my Azure bucket that way. So all from a compliance perspective, all my logs are in place. So this was like just a quick app which we had built internally in a 2-day time frame to have like a complete view for my test execution, test management. So that is one good use case that I have seen. Second, also what we did was, in terms of a calculator that we built, right? So typically, like some of the ITSM related use cases. So specifically, we have this form wherein we are taking information from number of employees, tickets per day, and you can see, right, you have like multiple controls here. So you can actually like have the sliders and all of it. So the complexity can go to any level that way. So a user can log on to this page, he can submit it, and accordingly on submit, I can have my graphs populated here in terms of my overall savings or cost benefits that way. So this is another like a quick app which we have built and which we have seen across different enterprises also. So that is the second example. Talking about one of the other enterprise use cases which is there, like let me just show you this particular demo. All right, so this is a demo which is you might have seen in many operations, right? So specifically, uh, okay, so I can everyone see my agent console? It's called unemployment insurance agent console. It's visible for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you can see here, right? So this was, when Akshat was creating that app, like there was one template here, which was about you get this pre-built template wherein you have these different tiles, right? And this is a common use case across any domain. Like you're working with an insurance customer, healthcare customer, banking customer. There is a contact center. A person calls to a contact center, and during the call, you will have a phone number, right? So based on the phone number, as the call is coming, you want to populate the information about that customer from multiple sources, right? So it could be your previous history, which is coming from a CRM. It could be like your authentication, some kind of application for authentication, a payment history application, right? So you have these multiple tiles and these data is coming from multiple applications. So the goal here is that as the call comes, based on the phone number, I am able to extract information from multiple applications, and it is going to help me save my average handling time, right? And that is an entire goal, because having a low AHT always helps from a customer experience. So this is a very good example in terms of the end to end getting data from multiple application. And another interesting aspect here, right? Like you might ask, like, okay, so this is the UI which I got, but then talking about AI. Now, you might have seen, right? Like there is something called recommended actions, or there is a sentiment which is available here. Like if I just show here, right? So on the left side, there is a sentiment also. So that's where I can actually integrate my AI models here, and I can also show this particular dashboard. The operator will based on the past transactions, based on the data, he can actually like show the recommended actions, right? So let's say maybe there is a based on a history, you delay your payments every time, like for 7 to 10 days. So that is a recommendation that can be given. Or if it's like we're working with a telecom, right? So Vodafone or Idea or Geo, you can say that, okay, based on your usage, looks like you can, if you go to a family plan, then it would help you save your overall monthly bill that way. So those are AI based actions that can be incorporated here in the apps also. So it's if you think about the possibilities you can do, there are lots of things you can you're not just integrating data from multiple applications, but at the same time you're also maybe going a little ahead and helping in recommendations, getting the customer sentiment, and any other process related use cases which you want to understand and build that way. So that is a second another use case which we have seen specifically. And then one more thing is which I found cool, which was done was in terms of the you can also there was a ask, like if I want to integrate my Google Maps in UiPath apps, can that be done? So specifically, like you can have that interactive Google Maps into my UiPath apps, and you can based on the requirement, you can actually like navigate and any activities you want to do. So those kind of integrations are also possible here in terms of the applications that way. So those were some of the examples that way, but I mean, the possibilities are endless. I mean, you could just have an app which shows you a table, a list, a form, similar to your action center, like some kind of task, and you can approve, reject anything in your long running workflow there. So these were some of the examples which I wanted to show. And then apart from that, like, if I just come back to my slide, like some of the customers where apps has been used here in terms of quick development, building an application in a fast way, deploying the apps, whether it's in a invoice or a sales contract processing, or in terms of educational systems, or in terms of any uh, uh, techno kind of functional app there. So these are some of the customers. And uh, the thing is that apps, we released it in last year, 2021, and it was, as you all know, it was on cloud, right? So specifically, there were concerns about data in terms of, my data residing on my UiPath cloud, all those aspects, right? So that was one of the reasons, like, you will not find that many banking or finance customers here because of the data restriction. But now with the 2022.10 and onwards, like your data service is also available on premise. So that way, a customer like a citizen developer or a business user, he can quickly use this app and he can build it and have the data on premise. So the security aspect can be taken care of that way. So these are some of the examples, like in telecom, in terms of annual savings, in terms of improvements, specifically like where we have seen the app. And from architecture perspective, you can sorry, in architecture perspective, you can see here, right? Like you are having an app, it can integrate with your data service, or it can from data service there is a orchestration, you're invoking a robot, and these are some of the external integrations that have been done here, right? So specifically, like this was one of the other app which was built internally, and with all these possible integrations here. Now, yeah, and then lastly, like this is an automation launchpad, right? So if any of you are working for any COE and you want to understand, right, like what is happening with my automation program within my organization, so that's where you have the automation launchpad. It will tell you information about upcoming events. It will tell you information about what where automations are currently developed, which are currently deployed, how many hours are saved, right, because of the particular automation in place. Like if you look here on the program highlights, 5,001 active users, hours earned back, processes in use, right? So all the it's like an automation launchpad for a COE, wherein on this centralized page you have seen all the possible automation programs which are being ongoing within the organization. So again, this is a classic example of an app which has been built and leveraged, can be leveraged for a COE per se, that way. And with one second. So what was else I wanted to talk was yeah, and with 22.10, additionally, just this app, you can we have made it B2C, so that you can have a public facing app, right? So you build app, and if you want to expose that app to your outside customers or outside folks, it can become a B2C kind of app. So that is one of the thing which was not available earlier, but now your app has gone B2C also. We looked at automation launchpad, and then this integration service, right? So what is this integration service? Like let me just quickly show you what is it. Yeah, so integration service is your integration wherein we have a lot of connectors which are available. So as Akshay showed you, right, like you have a form, and let's say on your form, like specifically you create your application, and then there's a button, right? On the button, what happens is you are going to invoke a automation process. Now, rather than just invoking a process, if you have an inbuilt connector, right, like which you want to maybe push the data to Slack or Outlook or Workday or any other API, you want to invoke. Now that capability is available now, right, in terms of the integration service. So there's a huge set of integrations that can be done within the apps right now. So specifically, any a particular app you have, like suppose here there is something called as integration service, which allows you to connect to your multiple application. Now it could be any application, CRM application, any third party application. So there are a lot of connectors which are available where you want to push data, extract data, read data, all of it. So now this kind of integration from apps to the connectors is also possible here with the 22.10 release. Like not all connectors, but there is a list which connectors are available and which are under progress there. So that is a good use case here. Like it's not just you can invoke a process and that's the way to do it. You can also invoke APIs. You can invoke connectors which are available for the apps part of it. Okay, and lastly, in your assistant, this is my UiPath assistant. You have the capability to, have your apps listed here in your assistant, and you can actually like run your app from here also. So you can definitely run your process. That's like standard UiPath assistant work. But then any apps you want, you can actually, as a citizen user, I can actually run my apps from here and get my work done. So like an app will be like you have a form, you enter the data, and you look at the results that way, right? So that is another interface for talking to your apps that way. So yeah, that is it. Like in terms of the some of the newer capabilities and enterprise features in apps which are available. Sorry, I have used most of my time, but any questions? We can extend it for 5-10 minutes. If people have any questions, we can discuss that right now.
Yes. Hi, Amit. First of all, thank you. Like it was really amazing. So I have some questions about like say for like a table control. If we have a huge amount of data, is there any way that we can freeze the table header or add some pagination logic for that?
Yeah, you can. Right now, as per my understanding, like what we do is, if you have a table which has like multiple rows, then I mean not multiple rows, like millions of records. Then in that case, at a time it will allow you to show like I think around 1,000 records. Right, so at one point it will show you 1,000 records. That table will be the table in your app will be connected to your data service, and it will show you 1,000 records which are there. And then there is a pagination, like you see the next 1,000, next 1,000, next 1,000 that way. So that is a current interface which is available, which we have currently supported that way. Like because there were some questions from customer, like I have like 50,000 records, and can I see all of them at once? But from a usability perspective and performance perspective, that's not there. It's like you can show 1,000 records, you can paginate to the next page and go on that way.
Is it possible to reduce that? Like instead of 1,000, if we want to just display 20 records, because as the number of data is increasing, it takes more time to load on the screen. That's what personally I've seen.
Yeah. So 1,000 is the maximum you can see. Like 1,000 is the maximum number of records you can. It will fetch at once on that particular page. Honestly, if you ask me, that 1,000 also doesn't make any sense, because who is going to see 1,000 records together, right? Like max, like a person can see is like 50 records on one page that way. But there were some customers who were asking like. They wanted more, but maybe because of the requirement. But yeah, to answer your question, like up to you have the flexibility to choose on the records that way.
But is it like not released yet, or what? Because currently I cannot see any option to limit that these many records should be visible on the screen.
You're talking about 22.10?
Yeah.
Okay. It is, as far as I know, it is. I will note it down and I will get back to you.
Okay.
And yeah, maybe okay on the and sure you might be using cloud only, right? Because automation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just check that and I will get back to you. I will note that question.
Okay. And is there any way to sort the data? I know it was actually there, but for some reason it has stopped working. So do you have any idea about that? Like you have a table, if you click on the column header, generally it would sort your data,
Yeah.
table data, but it has stopped working since Monday. So any idea, like it's
Oh, wow.
for production and community edition both end. So I was like, is this something has changed in the back end or something?
No, I
Okay.
just did means it is working, means maybe some issues. I'm not sure, because from my side I'm just checking it was working. So
Okay.
Okay.
You can
Interesting.
open a Piyush, maybe you we will check definitely, but in case like if you're seeing that problem, you can open a ticket that way.
Okay.
Yeah, so that way, like maybe based on the use case, like if there is anything that needs to be done.
Okay. And last question, like you showed the Swagger API thing, to get the records. Are you doing that using the integration service only, which you showed at the end?
No, that's not using, because when we did this hackathon at that time, this integration service feature was not available. This we purely used the Swagger API and used it in the workflow that way. Right. So, I mean, those are specifically the test manager APIs. Okay. So test manager, if you go, like, there are these APIs to get you the test sets and test cases, test results, all those information. Right. So we are using that in the workflow, and then accordingly, like from my app, I'm calling them. But going forward, like since the connector is available, so I can actually, like, if there is a connector which is there for my test manager, I can create my own connector, point it to my test manager, and use the directly that way.
Okay. Yes. I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, hi, Amit. This is Chintan here. Like, I have a question with respect to data services. So, just wanted to understand, like, what is the behind the scenes of the data service? Like, how the data is being stored? Is it in a file-based system or like a relational database?
It's a relational database.
Okay. And like today, say an organization is going with the data service. Today, the volume of the data is small, but going forward, when it increases a lot, and when organizations thinks to migrate that to a proper data warehouse or something, then in that case, what is the flexibility to move this, whatever the entity model created in over here in the UiPath data service, from there to lift and shift to some this thing data warehouse? How
Right. Yeah.
easily it can be?
Yeah, so this data service which you are seeing, right, like that, specifically on the cloud, it is your Azure database basically. Okay. So, so with that logic, like, let's say, I mean, you can just think of it as a use case wherein I have certain tables and data in my Azure database, and I want to, move them to my some data warehouse, some Azure data lake or something like that. Whatever the mechanism is, it's still going to remain the same that way. So this is not like some proprietary, a different relational database which UiPath is using. It's like a standard that way.
Okay. And like, this is what about the cloud, but like when you were saying that with the 2022.10 version, like it is available in the on-premise also.
Correct.
So in that case, like how that will be working? Basically, you will be having your own in-house database that will be leveraged for this data service.
I mean, more 90% I'm sure it's SQL Server, but I will just confirm back and I will get back to you on that. But it's mostly like whatever, if it's not on cloud, right? If it's not on, if it's not a SaaS based model, then in whatever we do on premise, it's all SQL Server. Right. So the data service that you see, right, that interface that you see, it's like a web interface wherein you are actually like creating, but the backend for that is the database. Now on a cloud, it is your Azure database. On the on-premise version, it will be a SQL Server. But if there is any discrepancy, I will update and get back. But you can think of it as a SQL Server for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Amit.
Yeah, hi.
Akshat, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I have a quick question on that general availability of the apps for the general public, right? So previously, if I understand that whenever we have to share the app, the user has to be onboarded to the orchestrator first, right? Now, when we open this for the public, right, there are two challenges which I see. The first thing is, how would we know that which user has feed what data, right? Because you have opened it for the public. The second thing is, how can we actually, it's a good option that we can open it for public, let's say concurrent request, right? I don't know how many people are accessing 10, 20, 30, 50, and that might create a n number of pending jobs in my orchestrator. I haven't explored that yet, but if you have tried that one, I hope my question is clear.
Yeah, no, it is clear. Fair enough. So,
and to add that point, like how the licensing will work with this.
Yes.
Right. No. See, think about it in this way, right? Like your like any public-facing app which is there, right? In that public-facing app, whether it's IRCTC or any public-facing app which is there, like the license is not for the end user. Okay, the license is not for the public. The license is for the app. It's at a platform level, right? Like let's say we can, so It's like at an apps level, the license would be like, okay, as an organization, like they are using the apps platform, and they have built this particular app. So and they are using the data service, they are using orchestrator. So the licensing is going to be restricted to that itself. It's not going to be like I am a customer, I am a company A, I have rolled out this app and it's going to be, let's say, as used by 1,000 users. So then the company will have to purchase 1,000 users. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be the company is going to pay for the a platform license for that. Okay, so up to these many number of users using data service, using orchestrator, the licensing model will fit that way. So you don't have to worry about the aspect that, okay, that 1,000 can become 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. That aspect will not be, it wouldn't matter. The licensing will be still fixed at a platform level. What will matter is that as your load increases, how exactly are you your deployment architecture is that way, right? Like, let's say a concurrency, so maybe like currently my concurrency is 100 users are using at the same time, that 100 becomes 200. So then how am I handling my request, right? So then explicitly, if you look at that architecture, apps is a service which is enabled on your automation cloud. So everything will first go through the orchestrator, right? So you will have to actually set up your deployment in such a way that, okay, my orchestrator, there's a load balancer. In the load balancer, like I can actually like decide like, okay, the request comes in, and based on which node is available, which has like less traffic, I can forward the request on that orchestrator tenant. Now app is enabled and it will pass through app that way, right? So that deployment architecture still remains the same. So whether you're going with active, passive, HA, all of it, so that will still remain the same. Your load balancer will be there, your the other components will be there. App will be just a part there. Like after that request comes, it will come to app that way.
Okay, thanks, Amit.
Thank you.
So basically, it will more depend on how the architecture is rather than just the app.
Right. But it's a very interesting question, and I mean,
Yeah.
considering like it has been just released like right now, like a week back, we will come to know,
Mhm.
in terms of how
Yeah.
it's. But yeah, I mean, if you look at this, right, cloud.uipath.com, right, 25,000 users. I mean, everyone the customers, they have tenants, all of it. So almost 25 now. I don't know. Like this year, it might have increased, but till last year, I knew it was 25,000. So it's a pretty stable site that way. And again, see, when we go to cloud, right, like you're leveraging most of Azure that way. So it's kind of okay, because then that way they take care of your other aspects there. But yeah, I mean, we'll update it accordingly, like see how it works. Okay.
So I think we are 10 minutes over time
Sure.
as well, but the questions were definitely very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes. Okay. So does anyone have anything else, or we are good to end the session? You guys can reach out to Amit or Akshay over LinkedIn as well whenever you want post session. So feel free to reach out to them or me as well if you want to connect with them. No problem at all. And if no questions, then we can end the session.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we can
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks
for
Okay.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.